What's up, everyone? It's Esther and Zoe here, and welcome to Vision and Alchemy. Whether you're new to the path of self-discovery or you've been on this journey for a while, Esther and I are here to support and inspire you every step of the way. Buckle up, my friends, because we're about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime. Vision and Alchemy starts now.
Welcome back, my friends, to Vision and Alchemy. This is the second part of our two-part episode, The Company You Keep. So if you haven't heard the first one, just go back an episode. And if you have, welcome back. Enjoy.
I was beautiful. Having to say like that on Sunday. Sorry to interject, but
no, go.
I was just like out with my partner, just trying to have a lovely Sunday afternoon, just locally. Thinking and feeling so deeply, and it was like it's a kind of a double-edged sword of like I love like that's my like thing. I love expanding my consciousness and understanding myself and how I'm interacting with the world, but like it's like oh, it's a Sunday and this is so exhausting and I just want to like switch off. So yeah, I can totally understand how you just want to spend your weekends painting sometimes, because that gets you into that flow state and not thinking.
Exactly. And when you're in that really state of space.
Yeah.
It just really allows you to actually hit
as well, by the way.
Wait, sorry, say it again. I was talking over the top of you. Go one more time.
Sorry. I just wanted to mention that like you've really helped me with that FOMO too, because like everyone in their 20s, I was just so used to having a full social calendar. And then I think like over the years, you've kind of placed a bit of your self-worth or your value on what you're doing socially. And then I've felt quite uncomfortable in, recent years or whatever, if it's basically just a comparison thing, you know what I mean? Like I actually am doing exactly what I want to do, but there's like this residual like, oh, but I should want to do something else. Like I should want to be out there at that festival, but I really don't want to. I just want to stay at home. And you've really helped me. Like it's like this kind of residual FOMO. Like I genuinely am doing the thing that I want, but there's just like underlying guilt or like resistance to it of like, no, I need to be the fun party girl. And I'm like, I don't want to be, So
whenever you feel really like that, just picture your ego as this little tiny person that lives on your shoulder and whispering into your ear, and it's your ego just being like, if you don't go do that thing, you might be worthless as a person. And it's like, wow, that's actually fucking insane. Yeah. Not true. And I'll do whatever I want. Thank you. And then just like flick your little ego devil off your shoulder.
Yeah. And that's where self-discovery comes in, because we learn to not actually listen to everything that our ego says. Like there's your ego talking, and then there's, have you ever thought about who's listening? That's your soul, that's your essence, and that's your higher self, and that's the, whatever label you want to put on it, but that's the part that you start to deepen your connection with in your spiritual development or your self-discovery journey. And then you start listening to your ego from that place of hearing, like the listener, and you listen to what your ego is saying. You're like, what the fuck? Like, how did I just cop all of that and be like, oh, yes, you're right, I am a piece of shit. Like, fuck off. Yeah, but your
That's the best way to think about it.
What it is trained to do. Your ego is just very black and white. Like, I'm going to do a whole episode on the ego, because I'm very, like, my realm is like mindset development and subconscious work and stuff like that. And
keen.
I think I could really like create, kind of generate some aha moments for our listeners.
Yeah, please.
About your ego. So it's not about rejecting your ego, but we'll go into that in a whole different episode.
Oh, we could have a two-parter about it. Honestly, the ego is such a big thing, and it's so important, important. And there's just so many different ways to like think about it that will help. I'm excited for that. I'm actually so excited for that.
Yeah. So I feel like we've been talking about all the friendships you shouldn't have. No. Well, so the episode is about the company you keep, and I think we just really authentically jumped into like, okay, well, this is kind of what happens on this self-discovery journey, is like the company you keep will rapidly change, and it's really confusing and scary. And I'm so grateful that Esther and I have this platform to share with anyone earlier on in the journey about like, don't worry about creating the space. Don't worry about like losing those friendships or feeling misaligned, because we kind of had to figure that out for ourselves, and that's the big intention of this podcast, is to be like, hopefully like we've given you a bit of a guidebook or some support on that journey. But I just want to riff on how it feels when we are with the company we do want to keep.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's the other end of the bandwidth. We've spoken about the uncomfortable, like, when things feel misaligned and we have to create the space and edge out of our comfort zone and, deal with the FOMO. That's all of the hard work. But then you get to the point where you are keeping the company you keep. Is that the right thing? And yeah, so how does that make you feel when you are keeping the company you actually want to keep?
I feel empowered. That's the first word that came to my head. When I think about the friendships that I've cultivated, it's honestly, it blows my mind. I feel so lucky to know everyone that I know. Oh my God, I'm actually going to cry. Like, I love my friends so much. It's fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that was I didn't fart. That was my wrist, my bracelet. Anyway, I feel like my friends are all massive blessings in my life, and I have found and collected, like, I don't know, a crow or a magpie or something, like the shiniest, most beautiful, glowing objects on the planet, and brought them into this like one little bubble. Like, honestly, none of my friends even hang out with each other. Not none of them, but like a lot of my really like deep, life-changing friendships, they're all in different areas and different interests, different kinds of people. It's such an eclectic collection of human beings, but the things that we have in common are the most impactful things for me, like the things that I hold the most value on. So like the ability to open up and communicate from an open-hearted space, and the ability to be vulnerable with each other, the ability to actually like action each other's advice because we trust what the other person is saying and we don't just take it with a grain of salt. We also trust that we have each other's best interests at heart. And none of my friendships ever have less than pure intentions. Like, they're all just so true and so honest and so real and beautiful. And I feel like if one of them told me that if they said to me like, oh, you should do XYZ with your life, I would genuinely listen to that. Not in the sense of like, I need someone to tell me what to do with my life, because I seriously don't. It's just that I hold so much value in what these people say because they have been through the shit, or they're going through it, and they have high emotional intelligence, and they have big hearts and loads of compassion. And I feel eternally grateful for the friendships that I have. And so many of my friends are all going through spiritual awakenings at the moment. And it just feels like such a powerful time because, like I said before, it's like sometimes someone's in front of you in that journey and they can turn around and help you. And sometimes you're in front of someone else and you can turn around and help them. It just feels like a whole lot of women in my life, even the men, actually. There's like men going through, it's incredible. Like, there's such an awakening happening, and it's
contagious.
It is really, really contagious. It's amazing. I've got so Zoe is, she lives in the Northern Rivers, and she's always been like sort of just raised as like a bit of like a homegrown, like spiritual, down to earth, like she's wellness. She's like, eco-friendly. She is loving. She is so easy to talk to. Her eyes just have compassion like oozing out of them. Like you approach her knowing that you'll be held.
Oh.
And
oh. That was so beautiful.
It's so nice. I'm going to cry again. and then I think about like Sonia. She is this like she's basically like a professional surfer and model, and she just lives this like super fast life, but she's also like a magician when it comes to manifesting what she wants. She is definitely a Manigen or a manifester.
She's a Capricorn too, so it's
she's a Capricorn too, like
goals,
big time.
Yeah.
Like, what a combo. Yeah. And she's like, she's so fast. Like, I think I move through things quickly. You move through things quickly. Like, she moves through the world so quickly. It's crazy. And then there's like Andrea and Shannon, and they are like slightly older than me, not by a lot. And they've always been just such like wisdom and guideposts in my life. And they're such different personalities. Like, Shannon's this like eclectic, creative photographer, artist, and Andrea like works in like bathroom design and kitchen design and stuff. And she's got like a bit of a corporate vibe, whereas Shannon's got this like full like, boho situation going on. And then there's Chantel, and she's like, yeah. And like Chantel's like a zillennial like complete alternative, like enigma of a human being who just walks to the beat of her own drum and is so like intuitive and artistic, and her style is incredible, and she makes me feel like I can be absolutely anyone I want. And I think there's so many other friends I'm just not mentioning because I could just give everyone a beautiful rap. We don't need to do that. They know how much I love them. But the point of that is that they're just so different, and it doesn't, like what Zoe said earlier, it doesn't matter if, you know, you have these like specific life things in common with someone. Like you don't have to have that. You just have to have a soul in common with them and
just feel at home with them.
Yeah. And if you feel like you can be at home with them, you can achieve so much. You just have to let people in, and you have to hold space for them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you mentioning just then, like, oh, all my friends are from different places, kind of made me want to just touch on being open to how, like, different your social, you know, connections can be. I think it's so drilled down our throat through like movies and TV shows and stuff, like you've got to have one group of friends, you know what I mean? And we all just do everything together, like literally the show Friends or Seinfeld or whatever. They're all they do is hang out with 3 or 4 people and do everything together. But it's shown as this safety net of like, oh, I've always got someone to hang out with sort of thing. And if you've got a central group of friends and you spend all your time with them, that's freaking awesome. But I just know that for me, that's been a bit of a pain point because I've got a similar like friendship circle to Esther of like everyone's kind of in all these different spots, and like I've got a few of us that can all kind of hang out together sort of thing, or if there's like a birthday we'll all come together. But majority of the time now my socializing is very one-on-one or in smaller groups, and I just want to remind people, like, just allow your social network to be what it is. It doesn't have to be I'm on Friends and I have 6 friends sort of thing, you know. And I just want to mention that because for me it felt like, oh, I had to really kind of get comfortable with how diverse and quirky and different my social life looks now compared to when I was younger and hanging out with my high school group of friends, and we're going to festivals and everyone's dating each other and we're all hanging out, and that shit completely blew up in my face. Like those people were horrible to me towards the end, and that's why I don't hang out with them now, which is fine. Like we all have our really tough social situations, but I think I was holding on to that dream of like, well, I don't have that central group of friends anymore, but like I'll manifest them again soon. And I've sort of floated in and out of people's groups, but it's like it didn't even suit me. But I was so obsessed with like, no, to be like successful, like socially successful, I need to have this big group of friends, and we're all like taking Insta videos. And honestly, that shit is so boring when you like see the same picnic from like fucking 50 angles because everyone's taking the same, like, we're here, we're together, look how much fun we're having. And I'm like, oh, cool, really? I'm sorry, like I didn't realize you were down there at the beach because I didn't see it from different angles.
Take time off Instagram when you feel that way. If anyone's listening and you were like, yes, oh my God, I know that feeling, that is such a alert for get off Instagram for a while.
Yeah. So yeah, like I'm not like bagging big social groups. If you have one, that's amazing. If that feels like home to you and a sense of safety and excitement, and you feel like you can be the best version of yourself around those people, congratulations. But for anyone else that feels like on the outskirts of that, one, I suppose just because someone's been in your life for a really long time doesn't mean they have your best interests at heart. You could literally meet someone tomorrow who is more of an in alignment with you as a social connection sort of thing, and to just be open to how quirky your social network can be, you know. Or if you're in a season of wanting to hermit and having way less contact with the company you keep, freaking do that. Like both Esther and I have been in that, you know what I mean? But I just hope that people listening to this just are a little bit softer with themselves and give them a bit more permission than I did throughout that, because it's like I had no other choice to be in that hermit mode, but it didn't mean this little part of me is like, oh, but like I want to go out and play and socialize. But I just wish I like allowed a bit more. I'm like, yeah, but it's not time right now, Zoe. You know
like,
what
that feeling
really
is
trying to
like
push that from like that external expectation and that FOMO of like, oh, I really just need to heal and hermit and get to know myself. But I would be like, no, but I've got to go out there and look like I'm having fun. It's like, so exhausted just saying that out loud now.
Because like when you think back to that feeling, it's pretty much just resistance. Hey, it's like the universe is like, all right, time to hermit now. Like you got to work through some stuff, like things are going to be happening and you got to prepare.
Yeah.
And then you're like, no, but like if I don't go out and do all this stuff, like I won't exist. And it's like, that's not true. You'll exist massively if you work on yourself.
But there's
and it's just an exercise of resistance.
Yeah. Sorry, there's so much noise from society about like, no, that's wrong, or you're failing socially or whatever.
Yeah.
Like not take that time. And then I suppose I've just realized as we're mentioning that this episode is called The Company You Keep, but we haven't even gone over the most important company you keep, which is your own.
Oh my God, that's so true. My God.
I've got to go over to hers and pick it up, but if I had a mic, I would drop it right now.
Yeah, for those listening to this episode, Zoe's going to have this microphone that I have next time as well. So we're at the beginnings of this podcast, obviously, and we finally have microphones. They got delivered to my house yesterday, so I'm going to like drive to her house Monday. Drop it off. Go on.
Yeah, it was a very nice investment for us. We feel very profesh. But yeah, I think as well, you guys will notice if you haven't already experienced this, but as you are leaning into feeling more comfortable with your own company, it just completely changes the standard for the rest of the company and the rest of the time and energy and everything you put into like.
I'm clapping right now for anyone who's listening and not looking.
But yeah, we kind of it didn't even really touch on that yet, but that is kind of the defining factor of when you start having those tough conversations or pulling back from other friends. Like the pivotal thing that is driving all of those changes in the company you keep is because you are like, what am I trying to say? Like
the more you love yourself, the more you actually care about who you let into your energy and your space, because you have so much admiration for yourself, so much respect for yourself. You know what you've been through. You know what your lessons have been. And then to go and be around people who are right for you feels magical, and people who are wrong for you feels like you're assaulting your own energy or whatever. So it's like super important. And
like a bullshit radar.
Yes. It's like clear as day. Hey, suddenly everything becomes so stark.
Yeah.
And when you hear someone talking in a way that is of your old personality or your old self, that like before the loving of yourself and this like deep awakening and everything, when you interact with someone who still is on that vibrational level, but you're interacting from a higher vibrational level now, it's almost like, oh my God, like your ears are just like, oh no, shut that out. Like don't let that energy in. Like don't let it penetrate the field or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's wild.
And it's not about, we're not saying like when you notice someone acting from a place of your past self, we're not judging them. That comes back to that conversation we're having earlier of like, you can send them love. You can still love these people from afar. It's not a rejection resistance thing. But we're just mentioning that when you really get comfortable with your own company, that bullshit radar is very strong, and it's empowering. It's like this protective mechanism. It's like it's like a beacon throughout your day. Like, yes, no, this is where I'm putting my energy. This is where I'm not. And that the places where you're not, it's still about sending love and light and compassion that way as well. It's not like,
Yeah. Yes. I think what you just said made me think of the difference between like spiritual awakening from ego and from a heart space. So when it's like from ego, like when you have that stark sort of noticing the bullshit, and it impacts you and you're like, whoa, that's not where I am anymore. If you're in if you're in an ego headspace at the time, it'll be more like, oh, I am above that person and they're beneath me now. And I don't want to give them like my time of day because like, fuck that, get rid of the toxic people, la, la, la. But when you're coming and approaching life from a heart space, you look at them and you're like, okay, can I help raise their vibration? Are they prepared for that? Is that what they're willing to accept right now? Maybe, and maybe not. And if not, that's chill. Just send them love from where you are, but definitely work on your energetic boundaries and not, you don't need to give that you don't need to give yourself to that person. Also, this made me think of something that I feel like I've been practicing a lot lately about having this like amazing blend of personal boundaries and compassion for other people. Like I just feel like I've been practicing the shit out of that and absolutely nailing it. Like being able to verbalize when something is a no from me or a yes from me, or like where my limits are, while simultaneously helping someone feel seen, understood, held Would. And yeah, just sort of like keeping my heart space open toward other people, but also working on my boundaries, which is a thing that Serene was helping me with. And I just feel like it's finally kind of clicking into place, and it's awesome.
And it's a constant evolution though as well, that well, I was thinking more about the boundaries, like sorry guys. Yeah, sorry. Oh my God. Actually, maybe.
Are you okay?
Yes. I'm like, maybe this is my guides telling me to shut up so you can keep talking. You know what I mean? Like, my thoughts are like, you can shut up.
No, I was so ready to listen to whatever you had to say. I feel like I've been talking heaps.
Yeah. I just wanted to mention that, like, guys, don't put too much pressure on yourself with your boundaries, because they're constantly going to evolve as well. It's just about having this like loving awareness of them.
Big time.
Yeah.
Very much.
Then I suppose we should sort of wrap up soon, but I personally just wanted to mention one more thing, and then maybe Esther's got something else to share as well. But just coming back to that conversation about enjoying your own company, I think there's a lot of, if you guys aren't familiar with that yet, and there's some resistance there, I think it's like really take some time to observe what messages, I reckon it's probably your ego, are sending you about when I actually learned to sit with my own company. And I feel like for me, when I was learning that like a few years ago, some of the messages were, which are probably pretty common, but like that I would be lonely when I spend time with my own company, and that could not be further away from the truth, or whatever that saying is. And then the second one for me was that I would be bored, which again is so far away from what actually happens when you learn to experience, like enjoy solitude and enjoy your own company. So I just wanted to touch on that, because I feel like some people might be listening like, you know, it's so much resistance and so much anxiety about spending some time by themselves. But oh my God, guys, like it's a gift to yourself.
It's
like
such a
if
gift.
you are not doing it, hurry up and do it.
What do you think you would say to someone to help unlock the thing in their brain to make them feel okay about it? Like, what do you think would be the biggest mental hurdle to spending a lot more time alone? And how would you advise someone like around that?
I suppose, yeah, like similar to what I just mentioned, of like, ask yourself why. So you're aware that you've got that anxiety about spending time by yourself, but you know, you guys will be surprised if you start actually asking questions like within your own mind, the answers actually come through pretty easily. You know what I mean? It's coming back to that conversation of like the ego and your higher self, like the talking, which is a lot of the time is your ego, unless you're in that heart-centered space, and then the listener. So that's a conversation that you can actually start getting in control of and using it to your benefit.
And you can feel the tug of war between your soul and your ego. Like you can fucking feel it. It's like a visceral thing once you get used to listening to it.
It is a time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I would be like, start asking that voice or that conversation like, oh, I don't like spending time by myself. Ask it why. And then when you realize that, like I said, for me, the messages was that I'd be lonely and that I would be bored. And then when I realized I'm lonely and bored with the company that I was keeping because I was using it as a Band-Aid for not spending time by myself, if you know what I mean? Like I was like, oh, so basically what I'm trying to say is the advice I'd be giving to someone else is that once you bring something into your awareness and say put a label on it or put an understanding on it, it takes so much power away from it. Because my messages were like, I'll be bored and lonely. And then I was like,
that's so dumb.
Like I am. Like, why not lean into it? Because what am I protecting?
Yeah.
What am I protecting? What am I trying to save myself from? Because I was already in what I was feeling anxious about.
Yeah. Plus, like, you already know yourself. So it's like we all have this fear of knowing or acknowledging who we are underneath, right? Initially, not anymore. But I feel like everyone sort of just has this dread of sitting with themselves and actually facing the things that are inside their brain and actually like looking at the things that make them anxious, looking at the things that they struggle with the most. But it's like, don't be afraid to look at that stuff because you already know everything about yourself. Your higher self has been watching your entire life unfold. Like your soul is so aware of who you are. Your soul already loves you. Your soul is just trying to get your mind out of the way so that you can actually your consciousness can pay attention to the situation that you're in and be like, okay, this is how I actually feel and that's okay. Like sitting with yourself and holding yourself and giving yourself the, I guess, like space to exist exactly as you are is like one of the biggest gifts that you can give to yourself. And you're not going to find anything that you don't already know. That's the thing. Like, unless there's like, some subconscious shit there that you have to uncover. But when you get to that point where that stuff starts coming up, like you're already working through it. You're already willing to accept it.
Yeah. And it's super duper likely by that point that you've already started manifesting a lot of tools and community and support networks and everything to help you with that. Like, what were you, sorry, I just wanted to say one more thing when you were talking about, so I think when that resistance to like really looking at your shit, for lack of a better term, is, do you reckon the underlying message there is that if you lean into like turning over every stone and looking at like, oh, this or that, is that if we look at it, we give it more power? But it's actually the other way around. By you ignoring it and constantly distracting yourself with social media, with work, work is, we've got to live, but like, pointless tasks, socializing with people that are misaligned, you're actually giving all of those things you're scared to look at more power.
Yeah, because they'll come and control your life.
Like disempower. It disempowers that thing and it brings the power back to you.
Yes, 100%. Because then you can be more conscious of when you're doing something that would usually be a subconscious reaction. So like, I think it's like 95% of our lives happen from unconscious behaviors. And we're only 5% conscious or something like that. I don't know. I'm probably wrong on the statistics, but you get the gist. And like, if you are able to illuminate all those things that you usually operate unconsciously through, it's like you're like you just said, like it takes away the power. And like, if you don't look at those things, they will come out in one way or another. And it's usually more explosive and in a way that you don't want it to, in a way that you would look back on and be like, oh my God, like I wish I didn't say that or do that or whatever. So it's like, if you can illuminate these things, you can feel when a trigger is coming up. You can feel when you're about to behave from the point of view that would usually be unconscious, and you can identify it and be like, okay, this is not a useful emotion, and this is just a result of something that happened a really long time ago, and I don't need to let this control my life. I'm going to react from a conscious point of view right now. And then you find yourself living in so much more like alignment and also way more presently in your life, and actually being like, but the days seem to work a bit slower. Like life doesn't go by so quickly when you're able to be super conscious of your actions in every moment.
Exactly. And yeah, so I suppose like the take home message would be, or the homework, guys, your homework is to spend some time alone ASAP Rocky.
Yeah, big
really,
time.
Like, I hope that us shining a light on maybe any resistance that's there, or the value and everything that comes from spending time by yourself, has helped you kind of activate or acknowledge where you're at with your relationship with yourself and with your solitude, and invites you to take that time as soon as possible. And if you do, we would really love to hear how it goes. Like, even if you're a seasoned hermit, you know what I mean? Or you're just trying this for the first time, but we would really, really love to hear how that your new lens or new experiences with solitude and your own company goes and feels for yourself.
Please send us like a voice memo, like email it through. Yeah. You can find all the information in the show notes, but you can obviously like send a DM, but I'm obsessed with this idea of people sending in voice notes that we can put on the podcast. So pretty please do that. Like that would just be a gift to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, even though we're fully sending this message that like you need to be alone, you're also not.
Can you include us in that alone time?
Yeah. You don't know how the alone time goes after you have it. But that's the point of this podcast and creating this community, is like, yes, you got to take those moments to check out and enjoy your own company and move through that resistance and stuff. But as soon as you do that, you realize like, oh, I'm actually so supported and I have so much company and community through that. But you have to like push through that barrier and that block to do that, and then share it with your community. Because I'll often do that. Like sometimes Esther and I won't talk for like a day or two or something, which is very rare. But, you know, we're in a hermit mode, and she'll be like, oh, yeah, that's sweet, I'm in a hermit mode. I'm like, cool, like take your time, can't wait to hear how it goes.
Love
like,
you.
And then just, like, explode into my inbox like, I'm back, and vice versa. And I'm like, how was it? Tell me everything. Like,
it's so crazy when we do that, hey, because like there's like 5 new awakenings that we've had in that time that we've been processing, and it's like, oh, I've got so much to tell you. And it's been like 2 days.
And I'm still like sending you messages, and I'm like saying, I'm like, you know, sorry to bombard you, but like I need to tell you this. And then you're like, you know, kind of at this like highlight reel of like how my days were when you listen to them all. Like I'm never putting any pressure and vice versa of like, you need to listen to this right now. We just leave it there. And then when one or the other can receive it. And then you just get this like highlight reel of what the other one went through while we were in, say, the hermit mode or busy or something. And you're like, wow, oh my God. And then we'll like riff on what we've learned. So
yeah, I love that so much. I love that patience as well, and that like love and understanding. And this actually made me think, because I have a lot of friends who will reply to something eventually and be like, oh, sorry, I didn't get to reply to this earlier today. Like when you initially text, I've just had to do this and this and this. And they're like guilty. And I'm like, you cannot live in this much guilt. Because like imagine, like I'll get messages throughout the day from maybe like, let's just say 5 to 10 different people. And if I responded to them literally like immediately, every time, I would get absolutely nothing done, and all my brain would be filled with is other people's stuff. It wouldn't be able to exist on its own. Yeah. So, and then imagine if I said sorry and had like, and I used to, by the way, I used to have so much guilt about this. Like I used to feel it, like I would cry sometimes thinking that I was being a shit friend because I couldn't be there for everyone all at once all the time. I realized that was unrealistic. But like imagine if you replied or didn't reply to everyone straight away, but then you were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. Oh my God, I'm so sorry I didn't get back to you. And then it just puts this pressure on you to respond to that person. And then you feel guilty because you haven't responded yet. So then you leave it longer because you're just like in this like state of like, oh my God, I feel like I can't even approach it now. It's been so long because I have to say sorry so much and then reply to the thing, and they probably don't even care about what they were telling me anymore, and la la la. Yeah. And it's just like, what a fucking roller coaster every time you get a message. Are you kidding? We don't have time for that kind of wasted energy. Your energy is your currency. So drop that whole I'm sorry for not texting back straight away thing. Like give yourself the space, and the people who are important in your life will completely understand it. Yeah. No one expects you to reply straight away. It is a ridiculous expectation. Yeah. Like the fact that someone can just message your phone and suddenly be in your brain with their thing, just like an unsolicited text out of nowhere, and suddenly it's your responsibility to reply to them. Otherwise you're a doghead. Like, are you kidding? Yeah.
We are made to be and pressured to be way too available.
Way too available. You know, oh my God.
Esther and I are showing our age here, but you know, we grew up in a time of home phones. We're not even that old. But yeah,
like literally so young like, still.
You'd like call the home phone like, hey, is Sarah home? No, you're like, oh, okay. And then you just get on with your day. You're like, I don't wonder where she is. Like,
and then just like go play outside.
Like, and then that was it. But now we are pressured to be so available. So yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think when you start, you know, leaning into that solitude and spending time in your own company, it becomes that bullshit radar, in the sense of when you have to like stop apologizing for not getting back to people. If people don't respect your boundaries and your need for solitude, that's your bullshit radar. It's like, okay, cool, get out of my way. Like I'm going to stop putting energy here or less energy here because you're not respecting me prioritizing myself, which is just the utmost important thing.
It is. Like we cannot help other people before we help ourselves. We have to cultivate enough energy within ourselves to be able to help literally just like your own family, and then your neighbor, and then your bestie circle, and then your wider community out from that. Yeah. Same goes in relationships. Like you can't have enough love for everybody in your life unless you have an abundance of love for yourself. And that is honestly, again, such a fucking cliche, but I think everyone needs to really bring that into the forefront of their awareness again, because taking that time alone, setting those boundaries, spending time with yourself is the ultimate act of self-care and self-love. And when you do that, like you just fill up your cup. Like my friend circle has been just, I've been like a magnet lately, and everyone has been just flying at me as if I'm like the strongest magnet on the planet. And everyone's like, hey, like they either need help with something or they want to share something they're excited about or whatever it is. I feel like I have enough in my cup for them now because I've taken so much time, and I still practice like my alone time as much as I can. And it's one of my values now.
Yeah. And that's your compassion boundaries thing that you were talking about.
Yeah. So I've got enough love to give them and everything. But also if I like dip out for 2 days at a time and not talk to anybody, like the last stint I did was like 4 days and I didn't respond to a single person. And I loved every minute of it. Yeah. You know, I did not feel bad.
Very relaxed.
And I came back and everyone was like, okay, anyway, so I was going to say this is like, it was just as if I was never gone, which is incredible.
Exactly.
Like that's what you want.
And it will be tough at the start, guys, if you have made yourself super available for people, or you're still in a season of like getting clarity on aligned connections. You might have to have some tough conversations, but if someone doesn't respect your boundary, it's not actually a reflection of the boundary you're setting. It's their relationship with that boundary.
Yes, queen.
So like if you're like, oh, sorry, I just had to take a few days, and they're like, well, I found it really rude that you didn't blah, 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 like get back to me, etc. That's because they struggle to set that boundary for themselves. So this, oh my God, we're going full circle back to mirroring.
We are. Everything's a mirror.
Yeah, just remember to stay really strong in potential discomfort in those conversations, because if someone's like doesn't respect your boundary, like, oh, sorry, I had to hermit mode for a few days, it is not because you set that boundary. It is because of their relationship with boundaries and being available and spending time by themselves. So just be soft and kind to them. But I genuinely had to have some tough conversations when I first started being like, you know what, I don't want to get back to everyone in mealtime because I can't get on with my life and etc. And yeah, it's a bit uncomfortable, but edging out of your comfort zone with those conversations is your self-discovery journey. It is your empowerment journey. Like you can't not get all the juiciness and those lessons without actually actioning those things and having those tough conversations. And I haven't actually like lost anyone through that, but it just took a little bit of rejigging with their expectations of the friendship or the connection, etc. Like, listen, I can't be available for you all the time, or you can't voice message me at like 10 o'clock at night with a problem that we've spoken about 50 million times and you're not taking the action to change it, you know?
Yeah.
So the thing, like I was just so available for people all the time, and I'd be there for a friend because she's hanging out with like a shit guy sort of thing. And I'm like, we've already established that he's not good for you, but we've got to like riff about this midnight again. Like, but that was on me for being too available. And then I'd have to just be like, listen, like, I need you to have this conversation with this person, like as in with the guy or the girl or whatever it is, and slowly set that, like rejig people's expectations of your availability and your boundaries. So
yeah,
it might be tough, guys, but it's so worth it. And the people that are meant to stay in your corner will stay.
That's so true. And also, like what you were just saying just made me think of how it's a bit of an adjustment for the people in your life as well. So like when you shift your energy and you start showing up as like a different version of yourself, they can feel it, they can see it. A lot of your loved ones, like if you've got a good circle, will just celebrate the shit out of it. And some will be almost like addicted to who you used to be. So it's like they want that version of you that they know. They want that version of you that they're used to communicating with, that was on the level that they were on. And it's just a familiarity, and they'll still talk to you as if you are still that person. And it's kind of strange at first because you're like, you've gone through this whole new embodiment or whatever. And you're just like, that's not who I am anymore. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why are you talking to me like that? That's so bizarre. Like, I don't even possess those traits anymore. You're like, I'm a whole other person. What do you mean? But they're not used to that. And they will continue to talk to you in the way that they are used to until eventually, just like in time, they come on board with your energy shift and they realize that their version of you that they know and love isn't leaving them behind. It isn't disappearing. It's not anything to be afraid of for them. And it's not like their comfort is gone or whatever. Like the comfort they have in you, it's still there, and they realize that. So then they start to embrace like your new energy, and they start to respond to who you are now in the moment. And that when that happens, it's just like, oh, finally, like, yes, like that's a nice feeling. And I think like if you find yourself in that situation, just give that person time. Just know, just be like, look, it doesn't matter if they're talking to me like that, as long as they're not talking to you badly. But if they're just talking to the old version of you, you don't need to be like, fuck you, I'm out of here. Like if they're still a good person and you know they'll get through that and get to the other side and join you in your current energy, sweet, just give it time.
And again, that comes back to that compassion, boundaries piece of like, be patient, and you might just need to repeat yourself or gently remind them like, oh, actually, I don't want to talk negatively about our work colleagues anymore. Like, I hope you don't mind, etc. They might take a while to land. But yeah, you guys just need to use your discernment, which is a self-discovery piece and a self-empowerment piece of like, okay, I don't think this person's going to get on board, so I might have to put a little bit less energy there. Or you'll just feel it and be like, oh no, they're just adjusting. You know, they're just adjusting to that new version of me. And, you know, as we said, all of this stuff is contagious. So they might be like, wow, like Esther's really come into her own because she's prioritizing some self-care or some solitude.
That is honestly so true. It does happen. Whenever I see one of my girlfriends going through something amazing and she's got this like amazing development going on and her energy's rising, I'm just like, oh, so exciting. I'm like, oh my God, let me grab your coattails. Like, give me some of that goodness. Like, throw that energy this way. Like I see it as this inspiring, amazing thing. And like, wait, what were we just talking about? I have ADHD for the listeners, honestly. My stomach grumbled and my brain was like, did everyone hear that? And then I was like, what was I talking about?
Well, yeah, because we've been recording for like almost an hour and a half. So I think we should split this into two episodes.
We can. When my laptop's also got a low battery sign because I don't have it plugged in over here and it doesn't usually get this low.
Too. So maybe we're getting little indications to wrap up.
No, yeah, we should. I don't even remember the point of what I was going to say. So hopefully if you were listening and you know where I was going with that, awesome. If you don't, oh well.
But I did just want to touch on like, how are you feeling?
I feel so excited. I feel gentle and delicate and kind of soft and vulnerable. And I'm not scared of that. I feel really nice. And I feel really grateful for you for like giving me that space and like kind of holding me to do that. I feel tender, but in like a good way. I also feel very wise and I feel, I don't know. I feel genuinely so excited. Like, and yeah, just super grateful. Like, thanks for seeing exactly what I needed. And thanks for listening to your guides and actioning that. And thanks for like before we started recording too, like when Zoe first said all that stuff that she said at the start, like how she was like, I think that you need to take the lead with this one. And like, I tensed up, like I genuinely tensed up and like, so I pulled my head back and had like 10 chins and I was like leaning away from the screen and just like, oh my God. And then I was like, no, okay, like I'll do it. But like, how scary. And then I started to well up and everything. And I just had this like overwhelming sense of like, oh my God, she has heard everything I've been saying, how I want to like work on my speaking and work on being confident with the things that I have to say. Like she's heard all of that over the time. And she's like actioned it, not just heard it and been like, oh yeah, we'll help her in time whenever the time comes. Like she was like, here is my download and we're doing it today. And then talked me through it. I was panicking. I was like, what am I going to, how do I even, I've forgotten everything I know about myself. And she reminded me of who I am. And
yeah, you're like, reminded me of my whole life. Can you remind me? I was like, whoa, sit down, take a breath.
So yeah, I'm just really grateful to have such a beautiful friend because you not only recognize that this was a perfect time to push me into this and push me out of my comfort zone into a new one, but you also helped me with like the steps and kind of guided me through it. And then you just sort of did exactly what you said you would as well throughout the episode. Like you encouraged different things I was saying and you helped me touch on things and you stepped in if I was like zoning out of something or like, you know, yeah, it's almost like you foresaw this whole experience and knew exactly what it was going to be. And then you just guided me through it, which is so nice to be on that side of the coin of like any relationship, because I feel like usually that's me in any interaction I have. And you were that for me today. And I really super, super needed that. And I think I need more of that in general in life. Because it feels really nice. I feel really good right now.
Yeah. And I
love you so much.
Yeah, I love you too. And I'm so proud of you. Like you've just fully stepped into your own. And before we started recording, I said to Esther, like just to calm her nerves, I was like, I think I just need to step back and let you riff. And then, you know, kind of as you're talking, you'll get on this tangent and that's where your higher self comes in and you start channeling. And I'm such a believer in like that, the wisdom that we're sharing, like this isn't an ego practice. Like it's not like, yes, it's from life experience and stuff and it's our personal experience, but a lot of the wisdom is because we got our ego out of the way and we let a channel come through, a download, and we're open to the universal intelligence that's actually available to all of us, but you need to get your ego out of the way to let that come through. And I just really felt like that's what you needed to do today, because I know you've had a lot of throat chakra stuff and it's been quite small, and now I just really feel like you've activated it and you're oh man. We just lost Esther because obviously her battery died. So I think that's the universe and our guides being like, this episode is done, guys. But thankfully it's still recording. I would have absolutely died if we lost all of that. Okay, guys, I'm texting Esther. I'm turning it back on. If you're still recording, you can wrap up the app. Yeah, well, I'm trying to, but I can't tell everyone my laptop died. Okay, so Esther wants everyone to know that her laptop died. She's asking me to wrap up the episode, but I can't because I can't stop recording. So I think this this is me forever. I think this is what I do now. I just sit here and riff with you guys. She's like, let me know when you're finished. I'm like, I am scraping the barrel here. Oh.
I don't know where my camera is. I don't know why it's not working. I think my laptop's too low for a camera.
Yeah, that's all right. I think it's our guides probably intervening like, all right, you've made your point.
Yeah.
Well, when anything doesn't go our way, I'm like, it's the universe, it's our guides.
Yeah, it just makes life a lot easier because then it's like, oh, well, everything's happening for a reason. Just roll with it.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to another episode of Vision and Alchemy. If this episode resonated with you, we'd love you to share it with a friend. Your support means everything to us. If you'd like to subscribe to our journey, follow us at Vision and Alchemy on socials. And we'll see you next time.